Hey everybody, I am David, and today I want to talk about a love connection that the MCU hasn't addressed in a long while. And since it's Valentine's Day, I thought it would make sense to talk about some sort of relationship thing. And I'm not in a relationship apparently currently. Yeah. So why not talk about someone else's relationship? And a fictional one at that. So let's get right into it. The Hulk, or Bruce Banner, and Betty Ross. These two characters, we haven't seen them together in a very long time. The last time we saw them together was in The Incredible Hulk back in 2008, in the timeline of the MCU. That would be like maybe 2009 or 2010, whatever. Timeline's confusing, I know. I did a whole video on it. Just watch that and you'll know. But the Incredible Hulk is one that doesn't get referenced very often in the MCU. You know, we always hear about when Tony Stark announced himself as Iron Man, or when the Avengers formed together, or Captain America's time in World War II, etc., etc. But we never get much talk about what happened in Bruce's past life. Until recently, maybe a little bit, we got something that came back. Will it haunt Bruce? We don't know. Betty Ross was played by Liv Tyler in that film, and at the time, Edward Norton was the Hulk, or Bruce Banner. The Incredible Hulk, unlike the 2003 Hulk film, which was just called Hulk, that one starred Eric Bana and Jennifer Connelly. That one was not connected to the MCU. Some people don't know this and get a little confused about that Hulk movie. That one has nothing to do with the Edward Norton one. The Edward Norton one is the actual film that's connected to the rest of the MCU. So that leaves the question open now. Well, can Liv Tyler return as Betty Ross, and should they address it? Because recently, as I was kind of hinting at, in Captain America Civil War, we had William Hurt return as General Ross. William Hurt actually played General Ross in that Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton and Liv Tyler, and we know that Ross, his daughter, was Betty, hence why they both have the same last name. So why not bring Betty Ross back as well? I mean, we do know that Bruce Banner was in a relationship with her once upon a time. Does it look like he moved on? Yeah, maybe. Because now it seems like he's in a relationship with Natasha. But how does that make Betty feel? Because Betty's probably watching the news and seeing that, hey, look, it's Bruce. He's a hero now. He's fighting. He's saving the world. He's going off into outer space. I don't know if she saw that on TV, but you'll never know. And the Hulk is there and standing side by side with Black Widow. And you got to think that Betty is seeing this on TV and is like, is he moving on from me? Like, she has to be thinking that, right? Like, if I saw my girlfriend or whatever on TV with someone else, I'd be crushed. So like, you have to think that Betty is out there crying her heart out, knowing that like Bruce is already moving on past her. She's like waiting for him. She was supporting him, trying to stop her father from attacking him when he was the Hulk or when he was a fugitive. And that's thanks Betty gets from all of this. I don't know. I think I feel bad for Betty because I want to see Liv Tyler return. The problem I think that they'll have is, will Mark Ruffalo and Liv Tyler have that chemistry that Liv Tyler had with Edward Norton, or will they have no chemistry at all? Even if it's a different type of chemistry, I think that's something that they would have to see and figure out, because if that chemistry doesn't work, then you're not going to root for those two to get back together. But then again, you have to look at the dilemma now that Joss Whedon put Natasha and Bruce now in. because I'm gonna admit this, I do like the Bruce and Natasha relationship. I do like that Black Widow and the Hulk are a flirty couple, and she wants to be with him, and he is kind of like, well, I don't want to hurt her, and she's like, hey, I'm already hurt. There's nothing you can do to me that's already been done. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but describing their relationship, but it's a relationship that, yeah, I'm okay with. I know some people at the time of Age of Ultron didn't like it so much, but I'm like, no, this is a fine relationship. But there is a part of me that still wants to see Betty return and see how that would shake things up. Like, what would be his explanation for not going back to Betty and sticking with Natasha? Is there something about Natasha? Or maybe is the reason he doesn't really want to pursue a relationship with Natasha is because he still loves Betty? I mean, there's some things there that they could play with if they really want to. And we do know, starting with Thor Ragnarok, they do have this 3-arc story planned. Thor Ragnarok was the first part, then Avengers Infinity War, and then whatever Avengers 4 is going to be called. That will be Hulk's unofficial trilogy, if you will. They could ignore it. I mean, they have ignored other things in the MCU. For an example, the Mandarin, the real Mandarin apparently that's out there. They have ignored the leader who they set up in the Incredible Hulk. So there are things still float. The Red Skull is another big one that they haven't really went back and answered. So it is something they can ignore and just leave. And maybe if they ever do a soft reboot of the Hulk, maybe then they could go back to Betty in that way. I don't know, whatever they have planned for phase 4 or 5 or whatever phases Kevin Feige is at now. But yeah, this is a relationship that I would wish that the Russo brothers would touch on, especially since they did bring back Ross in Civil War, like I mentioned, as well as they did something that Joss Whedon wasn't able to do. Joss Whedon in Age of Ultron surpassed the question of... I was just rewatching Iron Man 3 again, and in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark blows up all his suits. And you think, okay, so what are they going to do with him in Age of Ultron? Because we know he's going to come back. Are they, like, what happened? And in Age of Ultron, Joss Whedon actually avoided the question. I remember listening to, I think it was the commentary of Avengers Age of Ultron, where he said he just decided to avoid the question because some directors wanted to do what they wanted to do in their movies. And I thought that was kind of a lame excuse. And it was, because Civil War came along and the Russo brothers actually gave us an explanation that was so simple in like 1 or 2 lines, where that Tony, after the events of the first Avengers, you know, he blew up all his suits. He even mentions this in Civil War. And he blows up all, and when Age of Ultron happened, he put on the suit back again, started fighting, and then became obsessed with being a hero again. And that's why him and Pepper split for a bit until Spider-Man Homecoming, where we clearly saw them get back together. So clearly the Russo brothers are not afraid of answering things with simple answers, because that's all it takes. Just a simple answer. Just come up with a simple excuse. We'll buy it if it sounds reasonable. And that one sounded reasonable. Yeah, I could see Tony getting obsessed with being a hero again and not being able to let go of the suit, because that's who he is. So we'll see. I hope the Russo brothers maybe watch this video and say, you know what, let's throw in a line to shut David up, and let's say that, yeah, he once had a girlfriend and maybe he didn't want to see her anymore, or maybe he kind of moved on from her and now is with Natasha. Maybe they could use that, you know, I was in one relationship before, didn't really work out. I don't want the same thing to happen to me and you. who knows? If the Russo brothers want to use that, go for it, man. Just make sure you tell everybody that I was the one that thought of it. Um, so with that being said, guys, I don't know. Tell me your thoughts below. Do you want to see Tyler or Betty Ross mentioned in some capacity in the next two Avengers movies? Comment below. Tell me your thoughts. And like this video to support my channel. Also, subscribe to my channel, especially if you are a huge fan of the MCU or superhero movies in general, because I love superhero movies and shows. I'm a huge fan, no bias against Marvel or DC. I love both equally. And until next time, take care.